Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As usual, it's African Queen Grace. I'm excited to be back. I hope you've managed to watch the other videos. Today I'm going to do a continuation of bullying in the workplace. So if you have not watched it, you need to catch up. It's in the videos, in the playlists. I'll just link it to the video below. And so that you can see the introduction. In that introduction bit, we defined what bullying is. We looked at some of the issues that come up with bullying, and so out of the definition today we are also going to continue on the types of things that people do when they're bullying, the characteristics, as I said in the other video, and then we are going to look at solutions so that as an employee or as a manager, as a human resource department, you are able to know how, and in these situations, how you should deal with them. Again, this video is supposed to enable those people who might not have a human resource department to have the tips on how to manage these situations in their workplaces. So it's really all round, and I believe it is going to empower you, and it's going to, make you or enable you view certain aspects of your workplace differently. So today we are going to continue, and the first thing we want to address is the characteristics of bullies, or the psychology behind bullying. Why do people bully? Why do they feel they need to bully? And again, as I said, it could be that it's the manager who is doing it. It could be an employee. It could be, a direct report who is doing it. So bullying is all rounded. But in our definition, we also say that the person who is bullying is seeking to intimidate, to make that person feel worthless. So why do people do this? Why do people bully? And the first thing is they have a need to dominate others. They want to stand out. They want to, and when I say stand out, it's standing out in a negative aspect. Because if you're intimidating people, if you're looking down on people, if you're making someone feel less of what they are, then it's not a good thing. So they have a need to dominate others, and they feel that if they bully, if they intimidate, if they spread rumors which are negative, then that person will feel worthless. So there is that need. They want to feed into feeling important. And that is one of the characteristics. The other one is they refuse to see the other person's points of view, or they don't want to empathize. So the people who do the bullying, the other thing they do is they feel that they are right. They feel that they are the one in charge. Whatever they're doing is correct, and the other person is not correct. So that is an angle to it when you're looking at the characteristics. The other one is they feel superior. When you're feeling superior, it's more of like when you're dominating. So the person who is doing the bullying feels that they are in charge. They're the ones in authority. They're the ones who have the strength, and the other person does not have. Then lastly, they refuse to take responsibility or deny wrongdoing. So when they're doing this, and I think it ties it all up, because they don't want to feel that they're doing something wrong, so they're always right. They want to be in charge. They want to dominate. So they'll never take responsibility for what they're doing. If they're ever cornered, you'll find that they will always twist it round, so the person who they're bullying is the one who is doing something wrong. That is how they'll want to put it across, that it's your fault, that's why I'm bullying you. It's your fault, that's why I'm doing this and that. And that already is, again, a form of psychological trauma. When someone is trying to express their fears, express their anxiety as to why they're being bullied, it's not a good working environment. And that person, when they're put down to answer, they already come across and say, oh, but it's this person who did this, that's why I was doing that. So it's just a mind game. So when we've looked at the characteristics of bullies and the psychology behind it, what does the employment law state? So as I was saying, with regards to employment law, I wanted to read for you a caption on what it actually says. And it really puts employers on the spot to really address these things. They might not have used specifically the word bullying, but when you talk about discrimination, when you talk about harassment, you know, people clearly talk about sexual harassment, like I said, but it covers these things, because these things you'll find build up. When someone, eventually when someone is sexually harassed, you'll find that bullying and intimidation are things that started at the beginning before it ever reached to the extent of sexual harassment. So I just want to read for you a caption so that we can see what employment law says. And it says, no employer shall discriminate directly or indirectly against an employee or prospective employee, or harass an employee or prospective employee on grounds of race, color, sex, language, religion, political, or any other opinion, nationality, ethnic or social origin, disability, pregnancy, mental status, or HIV status. It also says in Part B, in respect of recruiting, training, promotion, terms and conditions of employment, termination of employment, and any other matters arising out of employment. So in another video, I'll talk about specifically discrimination and how this impacts the work environment. But I just wanted to show you that the employment law actually covers that. And so no employee should suffer in silence when they're being harassed, when they're being intimidated, when they're being bullied in their workplace. Because it is expected of every organization to oversee that every employee has a good and a work climate, good working climate, environment for all the employees. So I'll go back to what impact then does bullying have in an organization? If there is a culture of bullying, if there is these issues that keep coming up of bullying, and the organization or management does not address it, what does it do overall to how the organization works? Number one, there is an impact of high absenteeism. You'll find that in most organizations, there's a high turnover of people, high absenteeism. Someone is always sick, someone has, and you can find that it can even be a pattern where someone is sick, they're always, every other week they're sick. Maybe 2 days they come in, the other 3 days they're sick, or once a week they're always sick. So they might not necessarily want to address the issue that they're being bullied, but they're trying to avoid whoever is doing the bullying. So they'll find themselves being absent from the work environment. So there's a lot of, you know, level of absenteeism. You can actually trace this if you clearly monitor as a manager or as a HR department. You can see that this manager maybe has a lot of high absenteeism from the direct reports or even indirect reports. So if you start noticing these patterns, you might want to dig deep and find out what is the issue. Why is there a lot of absenteeism? Maybe do a short survey, maybe, you know, call the employees one by one and really find out and dig deep in what exactly is going on. And you might uncover that it's actually bullying that is going on. That's why they're not coming. So the other impact there is high turnover. You'll find in organizations where bullying is rampant, people don't stay for long. So they are always in and out. They're always recruiting. There's always, you know, hiring going on. And you're like, what's going on? These guys are always recruiting. These guys are, you know, it seems like people don't sit still in this organization. And those are some of the things you might want to, you know, figure out, talk to people, you know, and these are some things you also want to look into when you're applying for jobs, like what exactly is going on. The other thing is employees in environments where they're being bullied, there's a lot of stress. There's high levels of stress. And stress, when we talk about stress, it also triggers things to do with, you know, high blood pressure, things to do with depression, anxiety, migraine headaches. Have you been in a work environment where When you started, you didn't even have headaches. You came in, you were healthy, you were good. Then all of a sudden, you have migraine headaches that you have to keep on taking painkillers. That is a red flag. When you start taking painkillers every day, maybe you go to the department that deals with the emergency tablets, you're always asking for painkillers. You are always having such hard migraines that you cannot work in that environment. Those are levels, or those are signs and symptoms of people who are being bullied. The stress levels are beyond what they can even manage. And I'm not saying that in totality that these are symptoms of, that these symptoms of these sicknesses come because of bullying alone in the workplace. No, I'm just saying that these are things that are triggered also by bullying. When you're being bullied in a work environment, you're so anxious, you feel like you're walking on eggshells. When you see this person, your heart is racing. You need to take a step back. So we're going to look at solutions, but it's always good to take a step back if you're ever in such a hostile working environment, because it makes you feel not safe. It might even affect you in the long run, where you have to take high blood pressure tablets. I mean, that is it's a long-term thing. It's not a one-off thing. And those are some of the things you want to address earlier on. Then the last thing it does, it has a bad organizational culture. And I said nowadays, most people, when they're, hoping to work in an organization, they quickly just go online and see what is the culture in this organization, what are people saying, what are some of the challenges that they have. And if these things keep on going unaddressed, they eventually come out of the feedback that employees have written about that certain organization. And so management might not want to address it per se, but the feedback there is in the working environments, in people, in societies, and in the recruitment world, is that organization works in this system. This is the system that they have. And sometimes it's a bit scary, because people sometimes want to do or take up jobs hoping that they can go and change a culture, and then they stay there for years, for months, or even days, and they realize that they cannot do it, and they decide to leave. So it's something that people need to address, and I'm hoping that through this video we can continue to sensitize people about these issues, and the HR department and managers need to take a step back and just address some of these issues. And it might not, like organizational culture might not change overnight, but it is the small steps that you take today that will bring a wider change eventually. So the next thing we are going to look into, just to recap, we've looked at characteristics of bullies and the psychology behind it. Then we've now looked at what does the employment law say. After that, we've looked into what impact bullying has in organizations. So the next thing we are looking at now is solutions to bullying. Solutions to bullying, I look at it from different perspectives, because I'm not expecting the solution to be implemented only from one side. So I'll not say that the HR or management needs to do this and that's it. No, it starts from the employees, then we move to the management, then we need to move even at the level of the other employees. What if you notice this is happening, what are you expected to do? So those are the three areas we are going to cover. So the first one is, as an employee, what are some of the things you can do to stop or to bring a halt or to bring a change into a work environment where there's bullying? So the first one is, you need to address the issues that are coming up. For example, if you find yourself in an environment where you're being bullied, you need to face that person and, ask them what's going on. Do they need clarification? Stand your ground. and push back and let that person know that you're not hopeless. You know, you have a ground to stand on. And sometimes it's the pushing back that actually changes the person or brings a stop to it. So just hold your ground and say, you know what, today I'm not walking away. Today I am actually facing this person and asking them what the issue is. And if they cannot address it, then, you know, you look at other avenues of communicating. Then the next thing is know your policies. Know your HR policies. I know most employees don't want to read the HR manual, or they only read it when they are in trouble, or they only read a section of the issue that they want addressed. But it's always good as an employee to read your HR manual, read your organizational manual, read your department policies and procedures. What is expected of you? What is expected of other employees? And you can clearly hold your ground on that. When you say that, hey, I know that, for example, I'm supposed to work from 8 to 5. Why am I working up to 9 every day? You can push back. And if you're being bullied to be the only one remaining in the department when everyone else has left, you have a ground to stand on, because the policy says you can only work from 8 to 5. So you can work 30 more minutes, you can work one hour extra at your own will. But when you're being pushed and intimidated to start working, many other more hours, that is not acceptable, then you need to stand your ground. So know your HR manual. I'll also do another video to talk about why employees should know what their HR manual states. Very interesting topic, so stay tuned. The other thing that an employee is expected to do is, when you find yourself in these situations of bullying, you need to talk to your manager. If you've noticed your other colleagues are being bullied, you need to talk to the manager and just raise these issues. And for example, if your manager is the one doing the bullying, then you need to raise these issues with the next level management, maybe the director. Maybe if you have a legal team or you have an investigative team, you might want to address these issues with them, so that you're not just keeping quiet, you're letting someone else, like a third party, know that, hey, there's something not going on right here and we think it should be addressed. Another thing that someone can do when you're being bullied is actually to document what is going on. So don't let these things pass by. Most employees have a tendency of just letting things pass through. So this happens, you let it pass through. The next happens, you let it pass through. And cumulatively, you'll find within the next couple of months or even years, when you now want to bring the issues up, you don't have evidence, you don't have citations, you don't have dates, you don't have people who were there when this was happening, and it becomes a weak case. So I would like to, advise people that make sure you are noting these things down. And you don't have to necessarily note it where everybody knows you're writing something, but you can write it even in your notes on your laptop and say, on this day this happened, and this is who was in that environment, and this is the scenario. And so if you notice that behavior has gone on for quite a long time, because we said bullying is not a one-off habit. It's a continuous habit that happens again and again. It's a repeated behavior. So if you have a pattern, if you can show evidence of a pattern, then you can be able to sit back and say, you know what, yes, I can report this, I have evidence, I have dates, I have scenarios, I have examples of where this happened, and you have a case. Then the last thing, when you're thinking about bullying or talking about bullies, in terms of solutions, is, I know many people might not be happy with this point, but it actually sometimes, it's good to stand back and empathize with the bully. You'll find that some people who do the bullying, it's a way for them to vent, because they have an issue in the background that is bothering them that they might not want to talk about. You can find that they're struggling maybe back at home. You might find they're being traumatized back at home. So when they come to the work environment, they want to lash out at someone else. They want to make someone else feel worthless because that is probably the way they feel. And so sometimes it's good to just step back, deep breathing in and out, and try to look at their perspective. Like, you might want to even just send someone to talk to them to find out what are the issues that they're dealing with back at home. And you'll find that when they're given support to address those issues or issues outside the work environment, their habit actually changes. So it's just good to empathize. So that is the role of the employee. How about the role of HR and management? HR and management is expected to hold everyone accountable. When they are told that this person is doing the bullying, they should not discriminate, or they should not say, oh, but wait a minute, Grace does not look like someone who can do such a thing. You should take everyone at their word and hold them accountable. Do your investigations, have a report written, have collaborative statements, and then you can hold someone accountable in terms of this happened, these people said this, and that we feel that you should be able to respond to it. The other thing that they can do is to have clear policies around certain issues like bullying. I said most organizations talk about harassment, they talk about sexual harassment, but they don't talk about bullying specifically. And so they need to clearly, map out and say, this is how we define bullying. These are situations we are not going to accept, and we are referring to them as a bullying aspect. And then this is what you should do as an employee when this scenario happens. And then employee will feel empowered, and they'll feel like, yes, if this has happened, I need to follow up. The other thing that ties into that is empowering your staff. When you've written the policies, you need to train them, you need to sensitize them, you need to remind them in these meetings that, hey, guys, this is a form of bullying. If this has happened to you, this has happened to someone make sure you're calling, make sure you're reaching out to the HR department. We'll give you support, we'll support you, we'll do everything possible, maybe put you through counseling so that you're able to overcome these scenarios. The other thing is, make sure you're getting back to your staff. When issues have been raised, don't sit on them for too long that people don't know what is going on. Get back to your employees, tell them that thank you for the information you've given us, we are working on it, this is how far we have reached, and so that people feel they've been listened to. And then when you've come to the end of that process, get back to them and give them the feedback so that they feel, or people who've had that story, because there's lots of grapevines in this organization. Someone knows that, yeah, if I go to HR department, they're going to support me. Then lastly, HR department should be approachable, or managers should be approachable. I know most employees fear the HR departments, but you should find a way of letting employees reach out to the HR department in these scenarios of bullying. Lastly, what is expected of the HR department and management is to create an organizational culture that promotes open communication, trustworthiness, and reliability. So it's not good to just have a good paper-written organizational policies. You should also have a way of implementing them and opening two-way traffic of communication and information flowing through. So lastly, as I conclude on this topic, is what is expected of bystanders. Those are other employees who are watching these things going on. Do they have a role to play in this scenario? And the answer is yes. If you see, or if you note that someone else is being harassed, someone else is being bullied, make sure you're standing out. Some organizations give platform for anonymous feedback. You can use that. Some people even give anonymous texts. Some people even have suggestion boxes. You can just write your feedback there. You can drop it in there so that the relevant people of authority can be able to follow up. The other thing is, if you notice someone else is being bullied, as peers, you need to stand in. Don't just ignore and say, oh, but it's always their character to talk that way. Oh, but no, he doesn't mean bad, or she doesn't mean bad. You need to stand in and and stop that from happening. If you notice it, you just stop in and say no. For example, you can say, no, Grace, I think that you're out of line. You shouldn't have spoken to someone else like that. Therefore, the other person who is, who does not have a voice, or person being bullied, feel that they have support and quorum around them. So I'm excited to wind up this topic. I hope the tips I have given will be helpful. As I said, it is not exhaustive. It is a topic that will continue being discussed, will continue looking at solutions, but these are tips that organizations can employ, can put into their working places. These are things that employees can do. These are things that you can help to empower your employees so that they can be able to speak out, so that we can stop bullying at workplaces and hide behind, oh, this has been our culture, this has been our norm, this is the way we do things. It's about time we stop those things, we stop bullying, we stop harassment, so that everybody feels that their working environment is safe and accommodates everyone. And I'm telling you, you're going to get the best outputs in terms of performance, in terms of people beating their KPIs, in terms of, having a good working environment, and it will be a good organizational culture. Remember to subscribe, African Queen Grace. Remember to like my page in LinkedIn. It's again Grace Odongo. Remember to reach out. Remember to share with your friends. And remember to watch the other videos. There's a lot that we can share and learn together. Thank you, and see you in the following video.